Sport Clips Haircuts and ESPN are teaming up for a Dad's Day getaway. An all-expenses-paid trip to ESPN and a day spent with Golic and Wingo on their show. Register for your chance to win at sportclips.com/ESPN. No purchase necessary. See rules at sportclips.com/ESPN. U.S. only. Age 18 and up and 6/15/18.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the show. Pennzoil Performance Line. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr.
What a great day yesterday it was with the parades on both coasts in Washington and then out in Golden State. Two so different as well. One with the pure joy of, and we'll play the Alex Ovechkin at some point, of just the joy of that. And then the NBA continues to entertain. You know, through shade throwing by T-shirts and or what people are saying and what GMs are saying. It's just amazing that you have the focal point of a team winning a championship, but so many ancillary things because of it.
It never stops. It's why it's been trending upward so much in the last few seasons. You create great characters. Everyone wants to make fun of me for watching reality television, but sports is just reality television where everyone's paid a little better and they have supremely gifted athletic talents.
Well, and Mike, you said earlier today, one of the great things about the NBA now is that the season never ends. We'll hit NBA off season. We'll hit free agency in a couple of weeks. That'll be the main conversation during the month of July around sports radio everywhere. But even in the parade yesterday, you're looking at Golden State between what Bob Myers, the GM, made a little bit of a joke at Durant, and that has people sort of up in arms. And then, frankly, Draymond Green coming out and throwing a little shade at the Cavs and also expressing his desire to get paid. Yep. We're overanalyzing
making sure
everything.
We knew that he took a pay cut. You know, I heard you say it this morning, Mike. There's a lot of credit out on the table and people are grabbing their share right now. And Draymond kind of grabbing his, saying, "Hey, I took $12 million less so we could get Durant. That's not going to fly anymore. I'm looking for the Supermax next year."
It's sort of like how everyone started making fun of LeBron James about walking out in the post-game press conference all of a sudden with that soft cast on the hand, and now we learn that it's broken. Like, all of a sudden now that we've seen this dynasty cemented 3 championships in, it's like, hey, remember when I did this thing for you guys? Remember when I told you how much I wanted this to work out and how I saw Kevin Durant as our prize free agent for that summer before we had lost that finals 3-1 and how I knew this was going to come to fruition. It all seems very convenient right now.
Well, we'll get to some free agency talk with Woj in about 30 minutes at 8:30 Eastern, but now let's get to what's trending. The United States might not be participating in the World Cup, but it pulled off a historic victory in Russia. All the same, the globe's biggest sporting event is returning to the U.S., and we're sharing it with Mexico and Canada.
Yeah, we had it in the U.S. in 1994. Most attendance, 3.6 million, best average per game, just right around 69,000. So we are sharing it with 2 other countries in Mexico and Canada and the U.S. First time that's going to happen. And here's the breakdown. So what's going to happen is normally there's 32 teams. For 2026, it's going to expand to 48 teams with the 3 host countries. And here's what the plan calls for. 10 games each in Canada and Mexico. Their other 60 games are going to be played in the U.S., including from the quarterfinals on, with the title game going to be played, it looks like, at MetLife, right outside of, in Giant Stadium, where the Giants and Jets play, where the finals is going to be played. And they said the possibility, Mike, could be $14 billion in revenue for this whole thing. The possibility of that, which is incredible.
And that's why you see so many people going through such great lengths to make sure that these World Cups end up in their respective countries.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, no.
Everybody getting nailed for bribing for the 2022 one or 24 one, whichever it is?
Exactly. I was going to say, as you look at corrupt organizations, you look straight at really the ones with 4 letters, the NCAA, FIFA. It always seems to, and I guess, was it the USOC? So or not the USOC, but whatever the World Cup committee would be.
Yeah,
maybe it's 4 letters.
No corruption needed here. They just picked the best candidate, obviously, because we got it. So it must have been fair.
Look at you.
Yeah, first time 3 countries all hosting together. So we'll see if we can all sing Kumbaya for North America here and put on for our continent.
Look at me being poly-positive. Not poly-positive, Mike Trout. For the second straight game, the Angels outfielder homered twice and lost.
Yeah, how about that? 2 straight games, homers twice, loses. Now he is 22, 23 home runs. That leads the league, but the Mariners got a couple home runs each from a couple of players. And our researcher, Riley, who is from Seattle, huge Seattle fan, made sure we knew this. The Mariners are in first place in the AL West this late into the season for the first time since 2003. How excited are you?
Very excited.
Yeah, I would figure you would be. Yeah.
Yeah, leading the Astros in the division right there. So the World Series defending champions now staring up at the Seattle Mariners. What a time to be alive.
Oh, well, it's a good baseball season. There's a lot of compelling races. I know we're not even to the All-Star game yet, but the fact is it feels like there are races in most of these divisions that make it worth keeping a side on.
That's fine. Everybody's playing for second in the AL behind my Indians.
Sure. Whatever you're going to tell yourself.
Yeah.
Just going to scooch right past that. You know, it's a Wednesday in June when an NFL quarterback throwing a football is news, but that's where we are with the one and only Andrew Luck.
And it wasn't a regulation-size football. It was a college football. Is there a big difference? You're a center. You snap the ball in college. You snap the ball in the NFL. Is there a big difference in the football?
Yeah, big enough, especially if you're someone like me with borderline on hand size. So there is enough of a difference, and the bigger difference is with depth perception and some things like that. But no, it actually is a little bit bigger. It always made me a little uncomfortable.
So Andrew Luck, he threw short passes. He said he's going to be ready for week 1, but I think we've all been kind of fooled enough thinking maybe it would be play some last year into thinking, you know what, we'll believe this when we see it. When we see him trot out there, make some throws, and then survive a couple of hits, everybody, I think, mostly Colt players and fans, can maybe at some point exhale.
I don't think they'll exhale even week 1. I think you're going to have to see how that arm actually recuperates after a couple of games. Like, how does he feel midway through the season? Does he have all his strength? Is the arm going to be fine throughout the duration of the season? I think Colts fans are going to be puckered up about this one all year long.
Forget them. Will Andrew Luck exhale ever throughout all this? He seems like a guy who's been beaten up by this process of getting back more than anything else.
That gets you caught up on what's trending. It's Golic and Wingo. I'm Jason Fitz sitting in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. This hour of Golic and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Inn and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. So, it's an exciting week for golf, obviously. It's an exciting week. I know Trey's going to be completely distracted when he comes back tomorrow as the U.S. Open gets kicked off. But we're going to go out there right now where we are joined by Andy North, two-time U.S. Open champ. Andy North joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Andy, thanks for giving us some time, man. So much conversation about Tiger. In your mind, does he have any chance at actually winning this thing?
Oh, absolutely he does. If you watch the way he's striking the golf ball right now, I think personally, I've watched him play an awful lot of golf over the last 20 years, watched him hit tons of balls. I think he's striking it about as well as I've ever seen him. He's controlling it nicely. He's controlling the flight. His driver has gotten remarkably improved from the first half of this season. And he just struggled with the putter a little bit at Memorial, and it looks like he's got that figured back out again. So I'd be shocked if he wasn't in the mix on Sunday.
Maybe I approach watching golf the wrong way, Andy, and I apologize to you as a golfer that I love seeing the guys in misery. That's why I love the Open so much and the pothole bunkers and the horrible weather, and here in the U.S. Open playing such a tough course. For the way this course is going to play, for my enjoyment, where are we going to see most players struggle on this course?
It's going to be on the greens, Mike, and I appreciate you thinking that way because that's the way I always approach the U.S. Open. I thought it should be the hardest, most difficult test we have all year long. But on this particular golf course this year, they made a decision to make the fairways much, much wider than they've ever been here in the past. They're probably an average 15 yards wider than they were the previous 3 Opens. So that changes kind of the way you look at it. The teeth of this golf course is going to be the greens. The green complexes are very difficult. Bunkering around the greens is good, and then you combine a lot of the bumps and rolls and mounds in these greens. It's going to be tough putting. So a guy has to hit the ball in the fairway so he can put the ball in the proper spots on the green so you can have some chances to make some putts. If you're hitting really long clubs into the greens or playing out of the rough, it's going to be tough to get the ball in the right places. So I think it's a huge advantage for the very good long drivers that we have.
Talking to Andy North on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Speaking of long drivers, Dustin Johnson, the odds-on favorite to win the tournament, but he just won the St. Jude Classic last week, and we read the stat, no one who's won a PGA Tour event the week prior has gone on to win the U.S. Open. As a player, I mean, that's a pretty well-known stat that's getting thrown around. As a player, how much stock do you take in hearing something like that?
Absolutely none. The fact that it's happened is amazing that somebody hasn't won, but I don't think of all people it would affect Dustin Johnson at all. He's out here just trying to play golf. I walked a few holes with him yesterday. He's hitting the ball beautifully. He regained some of his putting magic that we saw over the last couple of years this last week. So, again, with his distance, he's going to be playing a lot of wedges and 9-irons and short irons into these greens, and because of that, he's able to control the ball on these hard surfaces, put it in the right place, and he's got a chance to make some birdies. So I think it's going to be a different type of U.S. Open than, Mike, you would like to see, and probably I'm in that same category. I like to see guys struggle as much as possible. I loved that way of playing golf, but I think it's really a huge advantage for the longer hitters. They can put the ball in the fairway. They're going to play short enough clubs. They can go ahead and get the ball where they've got a chance to make some birdies, and I think if the wind doesn't blow over 15, you're going to see some good scores.
We're talking to two-time U.S. Open champ Andy North on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Andy, educate me. When I hear so much about a course that is as difficult as they say this one is, how quickly does somebody adjust their game to sort of whatever they need to for a course like this?
That takes the players about 15 minutes. That's what these guys are so good at, going from different kinds of grasses, different type of style of play. They can change so quickly. But I think this is a course that's interesting. The player of today doesn't play as many practice rounds as guys did maybe 15, 20, 25 years ago. There's a lot of guys that will come in and play 9 holes on Sunday, 9 holes on Monday, 9 holes on Tuesday to try to be rested and when the tournament starts, which I agree with. But a guy like Justin Rose, he came in and played 3 days last week where he got a lot of work in. Tiger came in and played a couple of days a couple of weeks ago. So you see different wind conditions. There's nothing more difficult on a course like this than you play the same wind on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then it changes for another direction on Thursday. You have no idea how to play some of the holes. So the more practice rounds you can play, the more times you can see the golf course, and particularly a U.S. Open course that you only play once every 10, 12, 14 years, whatever it might be. There's a lot of guys who've never played here. They have no idea how to play this golf course in a north wind. Yeah, they just have, they better hope that they don't get a wind they haven't seen.
Talking to Andy North, two-time U.S. Open winner, and along those lines, Andy, from the mental side of this, in '78, I believe you were leading after the second, third, and you were up 1 going into the last round, and then in '85 when you won, you were never leading until you won it. You were, as far as rounds, you were down 2 going into the final round. So, which is more mentally tough? Being up by that 1 going into the final round or being down 2 chasing in that last round?
Mike, I think it matters when you get that lead. If you've just kind of gone along all week long and you shoot a nice round on Saturday and you get the lead, I think that's a lot easier than having the lead on Sunday, having led Thursday, Friday, every night. Just because you've got more responsibilities in the media center, you're finishing later probably, you're probably not eating and sleeping quite as well because you're jacked up. I mean, I would suspect that you had a lot of trouble sleeping Sunday nights after games. You go over in your head, I should have made this play, or I could have done this, or I could have done that. We do that in our sport, and you have to do it 3 or 4 days in a row, and you don't sleep very soundly. By Sunday, sometimes you're just running on fumes, and that's why the guy who's done it a lot, the Tiger Woods, the Rory McIlroys, the Phil Mickelsons, they're better equipped to handle Sunday, having gone through a week like that. Where a younger player, it's such a new experience, and you're so worn out at the end of the week, sometimes you don't play very well.
Speaking of the advantage older players have, we talked about Tiger Woods, but what about Phil? He's famously finished second at this tournament 6 times, and that experience is certainly helpful, but what point does that burden of knowing I haven't gotten over the hump at this one start to weigh on him?
I think probably he's over that part of it, but the fact that this is a golf course that if you have experience on it, and Phil really should have won here in '04. He missed a couple of short putts right at the end that he had a chance. But he understands how to play this golf course. And the fact that the fairways are wider, I think that helps Phil a lot. He's so good around the greens, pitching and chipping. That's going to come into play this week because no matter how well you play, you're going to miss a dozen to 15 greens that you have to play some miraculous type shots from 10, 15, 20 yards off the green as they roll off these ridges. So I think he's got a great opportunity. He's playing arguably the best golf this year that he's played in probably 5 years. So I think, Phil's found the fountain of youth a little bit, and I think there's a great opportunity for him to have a great week.
Andy, let's get to the really important thing here. We find out Tiger's staying on a yacht. Can you get us on the yacht for a yacht party? I mean, can you just sort of sneak us into the yacht party?
I suspect this week wouldn't be a really good chance of that. No.
Gosh, that's fine. That's fair. Give us a winner. Before we let you go, give us a winner on who you think is going to pull this one out.
Well, I think this is open. I think there's a lot of different players that could win here because of the way the golf course is set up. But I really like the way Justin Rose is playing. He's had an unbelievable 18 months of quality play every single week. I know he was in here last week and played a bunch of practice rounds in a lot of different conditions. And the way he's been playing, I think that he's got as good a chance as anybody.
Well, we appreciate your time, guys. Check him out, ESPN golf analyst Andy North. Andy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Great stuff from Andy. Notice he said this week, not a good week to get on the yacht. He didn't shut down a yacht party all the time. He just said, I suspect this week isn't a good week for it.
You ever been on any yacht party?
No, I've never been to a yacht party.
You ever been in a yacht party?
No.
I haven't either.
You ever been to a yacht party?
I thought that was a setup for a yes.
You know what? That's what we need is the Andy North Tiger Woods Yacht Party V Foundation auction item. We had the barbecue, the Golic and Wingo barbecue at my house. I have a feeling that one might do a little bit better than ours did.
Well, that's fair. I think the easiest way for me to get on the yacht is to take flowers. It's Golic and Wingo, presented by 1-800-Flowers.com. See that segue? Surprise a friend or loved one or Tiger if you want to get on the yacht party today with the bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Just go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr.
How about this real quick? I mentioned Andy North won in 78 and 85. In 1978, he won it. Prize money, he won $45,000. 1985, when he won it, he won $103,000.
Not bad, not bad.
Last year, Brooks Koepka won it, $2.16 million.
Yeah, think about this. How much was it? And I don't know the answer to this off the top of my head. In 1978, how much was an NFL player making a year? If you had to guess.
That was right when my brother Bob got into the league. He was drafted in 79, so right in that area there, and he was a second round. I mean, obviously, nothing. I mean, let me put it this way. When I got in the league in 85, I don't know if there was an actual minimum, but my salary was $62,000.
Nice.
Mike, when you were in the league, the minimum salary was what?
$405,000.
Yeah. $405,000. Wow. And for me, I made $62,000 my rookie year. Wow. So, yeah, definitely changes, no doubt about it.
It's a staggering piece of this. Speaking of staggering, the number of voicemails and tweets coming in still. Boy. It's Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I made the flippant comment earlier that Bruce Springsteen is overrated, which many of you guys have actually joined with me.
I've been surprised.
Yeah, I've been surprised. If you want to tell us who you think is overrated, 860-506-5505. I do have to play this voicemail.
Overrated band is Florida Georgia Line. Why does the singer sound like he's a woman in labor?
I wouldn't have said woman in labor, but I'll give you FGL's overrated all day. I'm not jumping up and down to do FGL.
Really?
I'm not a big FGL fan.
I like him. Huh? I do like him.
Calling him FGL probably kind of a jerk move, but
no. That's what everybody calls him.
Yeah, no, I understand it's an abbreviation, but you don't have to use it.
Well, Florida, okay, fine.
Like I
would say this, but I wouldn't say
Yeah.
Florida Georgia Line is overrated because to me they're sort of country Nickelback. Like nobody admits that they like FGL, yet they still sell out everywhere. So somebody's going to those concerts.
People are going. There's no doubt about that.
Like how is that? Everybody loves to trash on Nickelback, and I get it. But then you walk in and you're like, this place is full.
A bunch of kids crying, listening to Photographs, singing all the lyrics.
I'm not going to lie. I've heard you with a number of people saying other bands are overrated, and you say you agree. Who do you think who are your
properly rated?
Yeah.
No, I think Aerosmith, the Eagles are two from that era of Bruce Springsteen. I think Bon Jovi is I think to me the ability to make music that remains culturally relevant to new audiences over multiple generations is something I really respect. So even though, like, for example, I'm not a huge Madonna fan, the fact that she was able to have huge hits that were relevant to new markets in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, that's incredibly difficult to do. So I really respect anybody that can turn around and have like that's why I look at the Jay-Z's and Dr. Dre's even if that's not your type of music, the fact that you can look at it and say, wow, you were successful in a band in 85 and you're still writing things that people are clamoring over each other to buy, new audiences, that imagine having to reinvent yourself and be relevant all the time. I respect that. Like as Maroon 5. Another one, I remember when Maroon 5 was a band, and now they're whatever they are. But they sell records to new people all the time. So I think that's really admirable.
Are they not a band anymore?
Well, they're sort of a band, but I mean, it wasn't
it always just Adam Levine? I mean, come on, look at that guy.
I'm just saying, go back today and like listen to the first record versus now, much different project. But I respect.
Do you have a favorite all-time band?
That's really difficult for me. Probably not. It'd be really difficult for me to pinpoint one thing, but I also
do it.
Gosh, I don't know.
I'm going to make you give before the show's over a top 3 or top 5, whichever you want to choose.
Top 3 or top 5 artists I could do pretty easily.
Right.
Like Stevie Wonder, Aerosmith, Bon Jovi would be in my top 5.
You're really a Bon Jovi fan.
I am a Bon Jovi. It was my first concert as a kid.
Got to know him really well when we were doing arena football.
No, not him, because Richie Sambora is my personal hero.
Okay.
So that's
and his son, at Notre Dame.
Yes, Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse at Notre Dame we got to see him out at Notre Dame some as well. So, I'm sorry, I just mentioned him. I know him.
I mean him, like Richie, Richie, call me. Coming up next, that's okay. We all have our heroes, right? My first concert. Coming up next, big news on a big superstar from our NBA insider.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. You got to let the drums kick in.
I'm with you.
I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic Jr. We're presented by Progressive Insurance and all this NBA talk. That's just getting started, and it's only going to get louder and louder and louder. So to get to some of it, we get to ESPN NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski, who joins us in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Woj, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me in.
So you wrote a story that was published today on the .com about a meeting that's going to take place between Popovich and Kawhi Leonard sooner than later. Any expectation on when that will take place?
Well, the hope had been they could get that in before the draft, which is coming quickly, next Thursday, the 21st. I don't think it's going to be this week based on what I'm told, but whether they can do it next week. But, certainly free agency is July 1. The Spurs have some players who have their options, Danny Green, Rudy Gay, who can either opt in or become free agents. I think they'd like to know what direction they're going as an organization before those players have to make decisions, but they're going to get together soon. They've been in contact with each other. It isn't as if they've, as I wrote in the story, Kawhi went to, when the season ended and he went back to San Antonio, there was a kind of a gathering of all the Spurs extended family players in memory of Greg Popovich's late wife. And he came to that, and I was told just looked like, fit in like he had as part of that extended Spurs group, and obviously he's part of the current group. So there's been contact, but they've got to sit down and figure out where they go from here. Can they repair the relationship? The trust, I think trust is really a big part of this, and I think that $219 million supermax deal that Leonard is eligible for, the Spurs have to decide whether they're ready to offer it to him.
I was going to say, if they like what they hear at the meeting and things look positive going forward, wouldn't that deal almost be a foregone conclusion that he's worth that deal to stay?
I don't think there's any question he's worth the deal. I don't think there had ever been a sense in San Antonio that they would not pay him that. He is a top 5, top 3 player.
So this is all about communication and smoothing things over.
I think you look at the Spurs' history and how they operate and what's important to them, that connection and that relationship with the player, not his agent, not his family member, not his uncle. The relationship between Popovich and Leonard will be paramount to, if you're going to go to ownership and say we're going to invest $40 million plus a year in one player, we want to know that player wants to be here. His medical with that quad has been outside the organization since last August, where he went and did it on his own. Those things they've got to get on the same page with those things. And I think there's some reconnecting with some of his teammates that's got to go on. But I mean, know this, the Spurs want to go forward with Kawhi Leonard. Greg Popovich at almost 70 years old, I think he's interested in a rebuild and trading him for assets. They want this to work. They've always wanted it to work. But I think they have a little leverage there. I mean, if Leonard and his group would like that offer, they can't get paid anywhere near that anywhere else being traded. That super max deal that was put in the last collective bargaining agreement was to try to keep players where they are, to allow small market teams to be able to compete by being able to pay their star players much more, and that kicks in here with Kawhi.
And I guess following up on that, because this decision will have such ramifications one way or another for this organization, how does it affect the way they might pursue this offseason with other free agents? We've heard LeBron James talk at length about wanting to be around smart basketball minds, and for everyone, that seems to come back to San Antonio.
There's no question. And if you're San Antonio, the perfect world would be you'd get this figured out with Kawhi Leonard. You'd figure out that you have a commitment and you can go forward together. And then you get out in free agency and you try to get at LeBron James or Paul George. But I think there has been a relationship between LeBron James and Greg Popovich. Certainly a great mutual admiration. Who doesn't admire LeBron? But I think LeBron has great respect for Greg Popovich. He's never, I think he's had one great coach in his career, and that was Eric Spoelstra.
So I want to go back. We're talking to ESPN NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. I want to go back to a word you've said several times, which is trust. And, I equate it to sort of if a marriage has a problem, you can't go to one counseling session and suddenly you're like, boom, everything's fine.
That's right. Is
it realistic to think that they can sit down once, twice in the next week and fix this?
I don't think it is. I think this is more than, and I said it in the piece today on the .com, it's probably a series of conversations. Again, they have been in contact. It's not as if but Greg Popovich, the passing of his wife, and he took time away, and Kawhi's been away and went on vacation, I'm told, like players do this time of year. And so it's just more that, you're not going to get to the heart of things in text messages or a quick phone conversation, whatever the extent of it's been. They need to sit down and really work through it. And you're right, Fitz. I think that's probably more than one conversation. There's a lot that's gone on in the past year, and there's been a disconnect there, and the disconnect didn't start, didn't happen overnight, and usually they're not fixed overnight.
While other teams can't talk to LeBron now legally, we all know there's backdoor connections.
There's no tampering in the NBA.
No.
I'm sure of that.
But we know players talk to players all the time.
And which is legal.
It's exactly right. And we saw with the Kevin Durant situation that it got basically done July 4th in the Hamptons, and other teams can start talking July 1st. So just not so much where LeBron may go, unless you think you have a spot where you think he's going to go. How about timing of how quickly do you think it may happen because of all the groundwork that may be being laid right now?
I don't anticipate it will be a quick LeBron decision. My sense has been they're going to take their time. I think it is not clear cut what makes the best sense. I think you may be in a situation where teams are going to have to be creative under the salary cap, whether it's to clear cap space, whether it's to work a sign and trade with Cleveland. And so there's two teams who say two legitimate contenders who have the space right now and can do it. The Lakers, Philadelphia, who have, the Lakers could create two max spots, go after Paul George and LeBron, which is their plan. But everywhere, everywhere else, there'd be a lot of salary cap gymnastics, and that could also extend this. And it will freeze up free agency largely because until LeBron decides, there won't be a lot of movement in the league.
I heard you mention this the other day with the Lakers specifically and the presence, just because we've heard his voice so much lately, but with Kobe Bryant and his presence around that team there and the relationship with LeBron James, is there anything to really make of that? Anything tangible in this situation?
I think it'll be really interesting because Kobe's been able to, I think Kobe wants very much to be in that conversation of, the conversation's become LeBron, Michael, who's the greatest, and Kobe's kind of been left out of that. And you saw him, the one tweet he had about my 5 titles and Michael's 6. If LeBron goes to LA, you are judged. There's one standard in LA for any great player. That's winning championships. And that's how you will be judged. They don't care about conference championship banners. And so I do think if LeBron goes there and he's not winning titles in year 1, year 2, the way Kobe has been talking the last few days, you've seen him about, hey, that's the only standard. That's all that matters. Because if you're going to judge it on championships, that's the way Kobe gets back in that greatest ever conversation or that Michael LeBron conversation. So I think it'll be interesting if LeBron does go to LA, just how he's so immensely popular.
He looms, doesn't he?
He looms. He looms. And he is so immensely popular. And there's lots of things to love about going to play for the Lakers and a lot of opportunities that come there. There's also a lot of pressure and a burden to have to win, and LeBron alone going to the Lakers doesn't make them a championship contender. They don't have enough yet.
One thing I know, follow him on Twitter. You'll keep up with everything at Woj ESPN, ESPN insider Adrian Wojnarowski. Thanks for the time, Woj.
Thanks, Woj. Appreciate it. Hey, guys, this is Mike Golic.
And this is Trey Wingo.
You ever wish you could wake up early in the morning and have donuts with your dad and us?
For Father's Day this year, you can. We're teaming up with Sport Clips Haircuts for a Dad's Day getaway. An all-expense-paid trip to ESPN, including a day spent with us on the show.
Plus, my son Junior, it is for Father's Day, isn't it?
Register for your chance to win online at sportclips.com/ESPN and make priceless memories.
No purchase necessary. See rules at sportclips.com/ESPN. U.S. only. Age 18 and up and 6/15/18.
Calling about the overrated singers, Beyonce. She insists on wearing her niece's outfit from 20 years ago that she does not fit in anymore, and she's just way overrated.
Oh, boy.
It is important to note that was not any of us.
No,
I do not want the Beehive coming at me.
So far away.
No.
Look, I'm not scared of Springsteen fans. I am scared of the Beehive.
So you know what the crazy thing is about that guy who left that voicemail? He's already dead.
Illuminati got him?
No chance. The Illuminati, no. Millions of Beyonce fans worldwide came and carved that guy up.
Oh, man. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. You can tell us who you think is overrated. Sorry, I stepped on you, Mike.
It's the big boy read.
My bad.
Please get out of the way of the big boy read, you small person.
Thank you.
God.
I've been working out.
Anyway, SportsCenter, brought to you by DXL. Guys, big boys, come here. Built like a linebacker, a power forward. Finding clothes that fits never been easy until DXL. DXL was built for XL guys. Fitz, you tiny man, with over 100 brands and an unrivaled fit starting at size XL. Go to your nearby DXL store or visit destinationxl.com. Built to fit, built XL. DXL, big boy.
I'm still stunned, dude, went after Beyonce. I mean, that's one of those, whether you think it or not, you keep it to yourself.
Really? I mean, you just don't say anything. You don't say anything about Beyonce.
Y'all can tell us who you think is overrated. 860-506-5505 is the voicemail. 860-506-5505. Golic and Wingo. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. And, we've been trying. I mean, Junior and I have been trying the whole day to push this one off, but somehow, some way, we now have to acknowledge that a study says that, Mike, you are the smartest person in the room.
I mean, you always hear the be respect your elders because they're older and wiser. You know what? That is true.
Sure.
The headline alone on this story made me want to talk about it. And the headline is, young people really are getting more stupid. I love that headline. Love it. So there's something called the Flynn effect. It was about IQs that were going up. Average IQs were rising over the past 60, 70 years up to this point per decade. IQs going up. People getting smarter. Then came a certain date. What year were you born, Mike?
1989.
Fitz, what year were you born?
1977.
1977.
Fitz is sneaky old.
Interesting.
And skinny.
The Flynn effect basically ended with the year people who were born in 1975 or later. Y'all are getting dumber. Anybody behind this glass? Nobody. You were all born after 1975. I'm smarter than everybody in this room. Again, before that, average IQs were going up per decade. From 75 on, they're going down.
Okay, let me just ask one question of the room. We'll poll the entire room on this. Golic and Wingo. If everybody in this room could pick one teammate, we're going to call this Tag Team Jeopardy. You can only pick one teammate. And you had the choice between Mike Golic Sr. or Riley. Who are we taking? Like, I'm taking Riley. Who else is with me on Riley? See, there's at least,
give me Golic all day.
You know who's
all day.
You know who's raising their hand? Everybody born in that generation. You're just sticking up for one. And I love Riley. She's fantastic, but I'm the smartest person in the room. I am the smartest person in the room.
You know what the thing about IQ tests is? You can talk about averages. We can talk about the ones in the room. Try out the test. I've been saying this since the inception of this show. We have the rejoin to back it up. Anytime you and Trey, Fitz, you can jump in on this too. Ooh. Anytime you want to run it out there, I promise you, I'll go toe-to-toe with any of you guys, and it won't end well for you.
In my America, I really want Stugotz invited to this party, too.
Oh, yeah, I need Stugotz.
Stugotz couldn't hand out the IQ test, let alone take the IQ test. Okay?
Wow.
I'll be getting the text in a minute. The decline is has something to do with, they're talking about a difference in technique in the way languages and math is taught in schools, scientists have suggested. So again, if you were born from 75 and later, you're getting dumber. Okay? You're getting dumber.
You know what's interesting?
Before that, we were getting smarter.
We have Brettomology scores that dispute that. I'll tell you that much.
Brettomology.
What was your record today in Brettomology?
It doesn't matter.
Did you get any right?
Brettomology is about making things up.
Did you get it right?
No, I went 0 for 4.
0 for 4.
I got smoked.
Mm-hmm. I went 3 for 4.
Yeah!
Champion. I'm going to carry my 3 for 4 round like the Stanley Cup for the next 85 hours on a bender. Let me just tell you.
Listen, I'm focused in on the headline. Young people really are getting more stupid. IQs have started to fall by 7 points per generation is a pretty worrying trend scientists discover. So, per generation. So, Fitz, you're smarter than Mike because his generation is getting dumber.
Can I get a ruling on more stupid, by the way? More stupid, don't think that's the operative term here.
What does the headline say? Don't put reading on me. That's what the headline says.
Hold on. Real quick, this voicemail is from somebody that's 70.
I agree. Springsteen is overrated. I'd take Bon Jovi in a heartbeat. And I've been around. I'm 70 years old. I agree.
She's 70 years old.
He's overrated.
She's in the smart category with
70
me.
years old, and she's in on the Springsteen overrated.
But sure, you know what? I respect her opinion because she's part of the smarter generation. Okay? I would like to be treated with the proper respect in this room.
This is more old people propaganda. Don't buy it. See who the article was written by.
Yeah, let's find out how old the writer of this article was. Probably wrote it on a typewriter.
I'm the smartest man alive!
Coming up next, an NFL, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. Coming up next, are you ready for this? An NFL quarterback threw a football yesterday. And that constitutes his news on a Wednesday in June. We'll tell you about it next. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Ryan! I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
In all the chaos of the day, one of the things that sort of slipped under the radar is that the Raptors have hired Nick Nurse as their new head basketball coach. And for many of you out there scratching your head saying, well, who is Nick Nurse? He's been an assistant coach for the last 5 years under freshly fired Dwayne Casey, who, by the way, the Pistons picked up, and he's going to join us in about 30 minutes. Nick Nurse hired the guy that's been in charge of the offense there. But to recap now, the Raptors enter the offseason with no draft picks, no projected cap space, and all of their existing players under contract basically through 1920. And they hired the assistant coach that was part of this organization that got them to wherever they are. It feels like status quo is all they're shooting for in Toronto.
He was over a decade coaching the British Basketball League. Then he won a couple of championships there, won a couple of championships as a G League coach, and as you mentioned, been an assistant with Dwayne Casey for the last 5 years working on the offense. So, new voice, I guess, but I'm trying to think, man, I mean, nothing really is going to be able to change with the team. You put a guy as a head coach who was on the staff who had been there. They had a great regular season this year, did what they normally do in the playoffs. To me, it just seems more about making a change for making a change's sake.
Yeah, it makes you scratch your head even more at the firing of Dwayne Casey, who was, the National Basketball Coaches Association Coach of the Year. Yeah. And a guy who all around seemed to be doing a great job, a guy who's tremendously respected around the league, and you get someone who's going to bridge over more of what they were doing. You clearly were a fan enough of the changes that were being made. So, yeah, a change in voice is really about all you can justify here as your decision to go this route and not go with a complete overhaul.
You're listening to Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. Speaking of Dwayne Casey, he'll join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line in about 30 minutes. And again, guys, for whatever the NBA has become, it's become a constant story throughout the year, not just for the regular season, but also for the ability to sort of pique interest in the offseason. I don't feel like most players in general, like Nick Nurse is not a guy that suddenly every free agent saying, ooh, I'm going to go play for Nick Nurse. I think if you're a Raptors fan, you hope that they made change for some reason to help elevate the club, but without any draft picks and without some sort of a head coach that I feel like is a big draw or personality, I don't understand the move. So.
Yeah, it seems to be status quo there for a while and see where it goes.
Well, we are going to get you caught up now on what's trending. The big news in the morning has to do with football, but not the NFL kind. Nope. North America to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The U.S., Canada, and Mexico have a joint bid together that will allow all three of us to share in the kumbaya presence that is the World Cup.
Beat out Morocco for this. They were the closest contender, the only other contender.
Deal with it.
I should say. How it's going to break down is there's going to be 10 games in Canada, 10 in Mexico. The other 60 will be in the U.S. The quarterfinals and to the end will all be in the U.S., with the title game being at MetLife in Jersey. And they're saying revenue could be $14 billion. They expand the field. It's normally 32. It's going to expand to 48 countries in this. So, and it seems if you host, you get an automatic bid, which is unfortunately something we may be looking forward to here in the U.S.
Yeah, knowing we're going to be out this year was a tough pill to swallow, but getting to not only know that we're going to be involved in the tournament, but have it right here on our home turf, I know it's going to be exciting, especially the way soccer seems to be trending in this country right now. It's been about as popular as we've seen, whether it's been the Premier League or other groups abroad, as the MLS continues to garner more and more attention. This could time up very well for soccer in the U.S., and hopefully by that point we have a team that's not going to have to worry about the automatic bid.
Highest attendance rate, 1994, when the World Cup was here in the U.S., 3.6 million.
We do rally around the teams wearing red, white, and blue very hard. True. That's one thing independent of the true fandom of soccer. We're always going to do damn well.
The 2018 World Cup in Russia starts tomorrow. And, Mike, to your point about what this can mean, Soccer's a sport that, especially Soccer Guy constantly tells us is going to be huge in America and continues to grow in America. It does. Hosting the World Cup, I can only think, is going to be a massive advantage for the growth of soccer over the period of the next 10 years. The fact that we can sort of rally behind this huge international event.
I said this before. Obviously, in 94, you saw it was the biggest as far as attendance. 99, when the women won the World Cup, they started a pro league that eventually, unfortunately, went under. And I thought, and I asked this to soccer person out there because I don't know the answer to this. Has soccer grown as fast as you thought it would? With the highest attendance being in 94, with the women winning that World Cup, which really put that one. I mean, that was everywhere. Brandon Chastain, what she did, scoring the goal and the whole deal, and how great the women have been from that point on. Has soccer grown as much as you, soccer person in the United States, has thought it should grow? I don't know the answer to that. I know it's grown. Don't get me wrong.
I'll show a little bit of proximity bias here. Nashville just went through the process of getting Nashville SC Soccer Club, which is going to become an MLS team as part of the expansion bid. And so the radio station I worked on in Nashville was involved heavily in that process. And there is a belief that, yes, it's grown, and it's growing incredibly quickly, and maybe the rest of the world isn't realizing that. We'll see in the next few years, because the MLS has been aggressive in their expansion strategy, right? So they're going to have ticket sales to back that up.
Yep, and we always talk about the idea of the homegrown American superstar. Can this produce an opportunity for someone who on this stage, while we've got all the attention on their home ground, to do something and cement something that grows it? We've got guys like Christian Pulisic, the 19-year-old phenom for the U.S. national team right now. You've got names Can we get more of those by then that can help out with the cause?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a star power moment, though. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye out. Speaking of star power, Washington Nationals star Bryce Harper left Tuesday night's 3-0 loss to the New York Yankees after being hit on the left foot by an 89-mile-an-hour slider in the 8th inning, which, by the way, would make me lie on the ground and do a full Peter Griffin for an hour.
I'm somewhat amazed. Hit twice since 2012. He has only been hit 20 times. I'm really amazed at that. Anthony Rizzo, for the same time frame, has been hit 102 times, 5 times more than Bryce Harper. I'm still amazed at that stat.
Rizzo is also the highest end of this. I'd like to know what the average is during this time period. What's the average guy? What's the WAR number, that baseline for hits?
Well, and let me ask you a stupid question,
replacement.
But why? Why only 20 times? What does that say? We keep looking at that stat, and it's alarming. I just can't figure out why he's only been hit 20 times.
Clearly more agile than Rizzo.
No,
well,
quick twitch. That's what they say. It's Wednesday in June when an NFL quarterback throwing a football is news, but congratulations, that's where we are in the world with none other than Andrew Luck.
Yeah, he threw a football, not a regulation football in the NFL, more college football, I believe it was, which is a little smaller. Mike, you handled the footballs in both college and pro. You can attest to the fact that they are different size, so there is a reason for throwing a smaller ball leading up to a bigger ball, I would imagine.
Yep, exactly. Size, weight, all these things to keep him comfortable right now, and that's just it. This whole process has been an exercise in Andrew Luck's continued discomfort, whether it's been setbacks along the way, whether it's been just how long this process is. Everyone who's been injured and been through rehab talks about what a mentally draining process it is. But for Andrew especially, this seems to have gone above and beyond what we're used to and what we expect with modern medicine.
Really, and he had the private throwing session with Frank Reich, his coach, and asked Frank not to talk to anybody about it. I think that's where we should be in this whole thing is, man, we know he's going to have to throw out in the open at practice and stuff, but don't say a whole lot anymore. Just wait for the production to be there and not say, oh, yeah. Now, he said he's going to be there week 1, but, he's a very enthusiastic guy anyway, very upbeat and bubbly as we know when he starts chatting. But as far as anybody else, let's just wait and see till he gets trotted out there in week 1.
That gets you caught up with what's trending. I want to ask you guys a couple of Andrew Luck questions, because when you look at his record as a starter, the only year he's ever had with a losing record, 2015, he was 2-5 as a starter, only started 7 games. Every other year of his career, he's had a positive record. And there's at least been the perception that those Colts teams weren't necessarily great teams.
No, they weren't. And forget necessarily, they weren't.
I'm being kind.
No, you don't have to be. They were bad.
So where is this Colts roster? Because do we believe that there's essentially a LeBron-like effect of Andrew Luck, that he can step on any team, no matter the trash, and suddenly make them 8-8?
I think it's going to be, listen, as far as the South is concerned right now, you have to give it to Jacksonville. I don't think there's any doubt about that with what they've done and with that defense. Yep. We have to see how Deshaun Watson comes back from the injury, but they're getting defensive help back from injuries as well. Tennessee, new coaching staff to see how they acclimate to that. And listen, I think the biggest, we talk about Andrew Luck because he's the biggest name there, but they have done a poor job of putting talent on that team to surround an Andrew Luck, whether it's offensively or defensively to help. They just have. Now, we'll see if the protection helps with Kelly coming back, who I liked when they got a couple of years ago, but he's had some injury situations. They get Quentin Nelson to play guard to help for that up front, that pressure straight up the gut. We'll have to see. I don't know if one of the reasons he started playing poorly and throwing interceptions, well, they made him throw a lot early in his career, number one, a ton, but pressure was coming on him. He was running for his life and throwing the ball late. He would try and make a play, try and get the ball downfield, a lot of times trying to do it on a run, and it would lead to interception. So it was a horrible kind of formula the whole way through. So having him have protection and sit back there and be able to actually pat the ball a little bit and make a throw, let's wait and see if that happens. Clearly and truthfully, I don't know if there's enough around him to make this the team that we say, oh, yeah, that's the team in the South now because Andrew Luck is healthy.
Yeah, but we just mentioned he did a lot with very little before and managed to make it work. It's just a matter of if we get that true Andrew Luck, there's no one more valuable to what his team could potentially be this year than that one player. The rest of those teams all have other circumstances. They're going to help affect this. It's that guy that is going to sink or swim this.
Could you also, I'm going to go to especially the junior, to your sort of neck of the woods in this, but could you also make the argument right now that Jacksonville, as much as we talk about Jacksonville and their defense and the guys returning, Jacksonville probably has the most solid answers on the offensive line, particularly. Like, exactly what their offensive line looks like. The Colts have tried in the draft. I mean, they've certainly tried to address it in the draft. They just haven't drafted well. And then there are people that question the Titans' offensive line, one way or the other, metrics guys that say that Conklin and Lewan have gotten a lot of help. Lewan's holding out right now. And then the Texans don't particularly have a great offensive line. So that's another piece of this. While we want these young quarterbacks in the AFC South to turn out to be fantastic, I'm not sure we can trust any of the offensive lines in front of them other than Jacksonville.
Yeah, I will say this. If the Colts offensive line manages to be healthy, they drafted Braden Smith out of Auburn too as a higher pick, the guy who's an All-American caliber lineman there. If you have Ryan Kelly and Quentin Nelson both back in the middle of that game, in that line, you had an offense that was near the bottom half, I think 22, 25 in yards per game and rushing. That'll be a worst to first type situation. They'll be so markedly better if those two guys are healthy that'll instantly vault to one of the better groups just by nature of having those two guys in the middle.
But right now, who do you give it to? The best line? Do you give it to Jacksonville? Do you give it to Tennessee because of tackles in Lewan and Conklin?
I think what Jacksonville did last year, it's hard to avoid or hard to ignore the consistency across the board there. How much do you factor Leonard Fournette in there remains to be seen. But listen, also Tennessee, it's going to be interesting now, different changes. You had the benefit of Russ Grimm, who's a guy who in offensive line circles you trusted with the development of talent. I thought the things he did with Taylor Lewan and some of those guys that were great athletes, that were great talents at the position and became great linemen through the course of their NFL careers. Those are all groups that are going to grossly affect that division. You're absolutely right.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. It was a big day in D.C. yesterday. The Capitals Championship Parade did not disappoint. There are just some cities that are ready to party, and D.C. proved yesterday they were. And this is, we've been playing one little piece of this, but the party for Alexander Ovechkin has not stopped since he won the Cup, and yesterday was no different.
Your captain and playoff MVP, number 8, Alex Ovechkin.
The one and last thing. Before the year, I said, not me say, it's just us saying, we're not going to be f***ing sucked this year. We're the Stanley Cup champions! Yeah!
I can only imagine that's the same sound of unadulterated joy you guys have every morning that I walk in and you find out that I'm working on the show that day.
God, that's a horrific comparison.
Yeah, it really takes me out of the mood that Ovechkin just got me in.
He's here! Yeah! You're welcome.
How things happen so quickly, I've already forgotten the day that they won the Stanley Cup and how many days it's been since the parade, but there is no way he's been sober one day. The last time he was sober when he held the cup up on the ice, right? And ever since then, getting into that locker room and through that parade, he's been hammered. And I just love the joy of it. I get jealous of that. I talk about the Super Bowl all the time, never getting there because I'm jealous of those guys. Of never wanting to be there in person watching it because I get jealous of those guys. Because, as you know, Mike, in a team sport, the culmination of what it is when the season ends with a championship, and you were a lot closer to it than I was, being in a title game, has to be unbelievable. So when those guys are all getting together and enjoying that, the culmination of getting that championship, and how they have done that in Washington for it being the first time in the pure joy, makes me smile, but makes me really jealous as well, how they've enjoyed that.
No, it does, because in the immediacy, I mean, hell, we've seen Gronk party after a season. Yep. I mean, it doesn't matter if he wins or loses.
No, he does
You
not.
can still go out there and have a good time. It's down the road. Like, this cements your team in a way that most other things can't. We all have close bonds with guys that we were teammates with beforehand, but there's a difference when you point back to, we accomplished all of this with this particular group. There's a binding agent, and it's usually on your finger and covered in diamonds, that really helps you reflect back on that in a way that few other people can.
I can't imagine. I find it interesting you mentioned it makes you jealous to see that championship from everybody. That's always, it's curious to me because obviously you played for so long and you put so much into the game. Is it weird for you to sit there and sort of see the Super Bowl every year?
No, it's not weird. It's not weird at all. It's just I never got there, and I'm watching guys try and finish off something that I wanted to do, that I wanted to get there, that I wanted to enjoy. I wanted to have that moment when a season ended where everything you worked for worked. And you were the last team standing, and you got to enjoy that. I mean, that's what I'm jealous of.
I actually, like, it always hit me when I first moved to Nashville, and people would say, well, do you watch whatever the award shows were, any of the award shows? So I was like, no, I don't want to watch somebody doing everything that I haven't been able to do in my life. Like, it is a really weird piece of watching people celebrate when you put your whole life's work into something and don't get it. I think that's part of why Ovechkin is taking the world by storm, because how often do we see guys sort of be blasé about the fact that they won a championship? You see a guy win and it's like, oh yeah, on to next year. We're going to celebrate this, but then we're going to focus on what's next. I love the fact that for once we got a guy that is just, they won the Stanley Cup Thursday night. So it's been almost a week that they've been in this party process, and the fact that he's still yelling like that.
And not just him, the others have been,
sure.
but he gets the focal point of it. He's been out there the most. There's no doubt about it.
He has been the glorious face of this because he was tied to it. His reputation was the most closely associated with all of their shortcomings as a team. So it seems only right that he would celebrate like a guy who just got out of the friend zone.
Especially coming out of the friend zone. That's well done. Especially coming off of a Stanley Cup playoff that was the highest rated the NHL has seen in years.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see Ovi celebrate to this level and continue that story of the Capitals day in and day out. We talk about how the NBA's managed to keep your attention for months. Well, hockey's doing that with just by the sheer nature of the way he's partying. Speaking of attention, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like the difference we talked about in parades with Golden State, you have guys there who have won 3. I imagine that for your title game, because the guys on Alabama who beat you, some of those guys got their 3rd ring, right?
Yep, they went back-to-back that season.
Right. So it was a 3rd ring for some of them, and for you guys, it would have been the first for obviously your players on that team, and the first for Notre Dame since 1988. So it would have been kind of like, now I'm not saying the guys at Alabama didn't enjoy it and have their fun and celebrate because they were the last one standing, but they had been down that road before where you guys hadn't. So I'd imagine there would have been a little bit of difference in celebration.
Oh, I mean, it was even more commonplace for their fans at that point. I remember a buddy of mine, former teammate of mine, Chris Stewart, was sitting in the crowd next to a couple Alabama fans, and early in the game, we had a couple calls that didn't go our way. There was a play that reviewed that clearly looked like, Tyler Eifert, our tight end, was in bounds. And one of the fans leans over to my buddy and goes, "Oh, that happens sometimes in these title games. They miss a few of these calls early." And he was like, oh, well, you would know because you've been here now 3 of the last 4 years.
Love that voice you just did. I didn't know
was
what
spectacular.
That was,
like
but,
that was good.
I do a nice Southern belle for you.
Well,
right, there you go.
Nice. Not everybody's being nice on the voicemails, by the way. 860-506-5505. Yes, I said Bruce is overrated. Bruce Springsteen. You can tell us who you think is overrated. And apparently some people are mad at me on this one.
That guy is a real, excuse the language, moron. I don't give a that he has all these tattoos and he's been nominated for Grammys. Okie dokie, aloha from the North Shore of Maui.
Hey, you're in Maui. You're winning life.
Wow. You are winning.
You know what? Like, you're angry for somebody in Maui.
You don't really see people in Hawaii that angry.
How can you be in Maui on the just out on the beach and be that angry?
Dude, cussed you out.
Honestly. He needs
about
someone to go
Springsteen. Like, if Springsteen's not your brother, then what are you that angry about Maui?
Exactly. Dude needs someone to go put peanut butter cups in his eggs.
This guy might be making all of us angry, though.
Not only is Fitz hit on the head about Springsteen being overrated, but I'll toss another log on the fire. Bob Dylan may be the worst singer in the history of mankind, and that's saying something having heard Golic sing. Now, the Dan Perry, on the other hand, the most fun and energetic show I've ever been to here in Tulsa.
Look at that. I'm glad I played that one last. No need to talk about it. It's
A,
fine.
do you have siblings, and B, if you do, was that one of them?
Now, Fitz has gone extra long during the last break.
Oh, man. See, we need more calls like that. That's what I'm talking about. I had to get one in that threw Golic's voice under a little shade. Coming up, what does a man at the top of his profession think of the man who replaced him? We'll ask him next.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz, sitting in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic. And we're going to head straight to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, where we are joined by Pistons head coach Dwayne Casey. Coach, thanks for some time this morning. Congratulations on the Pistons job. What was it about that job particularly that you wanted?
Well, one, you've got, I think, a really good core of players there that, the organization has put together, and Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson to start with, and just some exciting young players. They only missed the playoffs last year by, 4 games, and unfortunately, I think health was a huge issue for them last year. I thought Stan Van Gundy did an excellent job of putting the foundation with the team for his time there. So that was very attractive. Ownership with Tom Gores and in the front office with Ed Stefanski and Arn Tellem was another big part of the reason. But again, I enjoy coaching. It was an opportunity, and so it was a tough decision for my family because young family, and in the fact that I could have taken a year off and try to be with my family, but my wife was pushing me out the door to get back in and get back into coaching. So no, it was an easy decision. There's a lot of basketball tradition in Detroit. You go back to the Bad Boys, and they've done an excellent job with the new arena downtown, renovating downtown area. So that's going to be a very exciting times going into Detroit.
Go a little more into before you made that decision, because as I said, you coaches are crazy, and I mean in a good way. You guys just, the work ethic as a coach in before the players, out after the players, that nowadays you see more and more guys that were in your position take that year, maybe do some media work at one of the networks, take a year to kind of take a breath with the family and all that. How close were you? I know you mentioned there a couple of times there. How close were you to actually doing that?
Well, it was close because, I did the media swing with ESPN on Friday, with the different shows there. And a matter of fact, it was close because I talked to Ed Stefanski, I think Saturday morning, and informed him I was leaning toward taking the year off, and also I talked with Tom Gord. Tom called and spoke to my wife and I for a long time, and just with all the positive things that he was, planning to do with the organization, with the team, and just convinced me that it was the right thing to do. So, there's a lot of good coaches out there, Mike. It's, there's a lot of folks that are better coaches than I are out there. So I feel humble and blessed just to have the opportunity to jump back in, and and it was nip and tuck there for a while, but again, I'm lucky to have the opportunity and excited to be there.
We're talking to Pistons head coach Dwayne Casey. Coach, walk me a little bit through that process. I always find it amazing when all of a sudden you find out now you're going to be living in a completely different city. You mentioned family and wife, and just trying to figure out how to live in Detroit. How do you balance getting worked into your new job and also working life in a new city for a family?
Well, right now I'm out in L.A. here to meet the players and spend time with all the players that live out here in California. So it's a whirlwind because I want to meet the guys and get to know them and watch them work out. And at the same time, my wife is, house hunting, looking for houses, and kids are finishing up school. That's the hard part of in the profession, whether it's baseball, football, whatever the profession is, for coaches and for players, especially for coaches, and kids get locked in as far as where friends are concerned, community, and then all at once they have to uproot. And I think it's easier for us than it is for the family to leave friends and loved ones behind that they've made. Especially we've been in a good community like Toronto, and you put in roots for 7 years and meet some great people, and Toronto's a great city. But again, another way you can look at it is an exciting adventure going to another city. You meet new friends and meet new teammates for your kids, and so it can be it's an exciting time also. So I really believe it's tougher on the family than it is for us as grown-ups and the people that, because I can go and indulge myself into work and dive in and work every day, where they're the ones who really have to make a tremendous sacrifice with the move.
Sorry, Dwayne Casey, new head coach for the Detroit Pistons, formerly of the Raptors, as I said, for more than a few years there. And that's why players and coaches' wives are the MVP, because the players and coaches have to do their thing, and the wives have to move everybody and take care of all the business. So no doubt they are the MVPs there. So you leave a team and you leave a city where you had been a while, and you certainly had some success there. And a guy who coached under you gets that job in Nick Nurse. So tell us a little bit about him and what Toronto can expect from a guy that worked under you for 5 years can do there.
Well, Nick was in the G League. I remember I called him and didn't really know him. It was recommended by another colleague in the business, and met him, and so he came in and did a good job. He's a good offensive mind, and so he did an excellent job, and he'll do a good job for Toronto. And Nick is coached overseas in the league in England, and so he brings some experience there. He'll do a good job with the team, and it's a good opportunity for him.
Coach, nobody likes to get fired. I don't care what you do. Is there a little bit of, why did they do this to me in Toronto? I thought things had been going well. The playoffs, we know what's been going on there, but was there a little bit of, maybe I was wronged here?
No, you can't sit around and feel sorry for yourself. The thing about professional sports, as you guys know, it's a tough league. If you don't get the job done or to the level that ownership and the management and want you to, then they have the right and usually do remove you. So it's a tough league from that standpoint. I thought we did do a good job and accomplish the things that they asked us to do. They asked us to change the offense and change the defense. We did. I think we finished number 2 in the NBA in offense and number 4 in defense. I thought Rex Flamian did a good job with the defense there, and we did that. They said to develop the young players. We developed the best bench, which was all young players in the NBA. So we did that. So again, it's the NBA, it's the NFL, it's Major League Baseball. Owners can and management can do whatever they want to do and fire you. So it's never good to be fired. But again, I understood it when I got into this profession a long time ago. It's not my first rodeo, and nothing in this league surprises me anymore.
Coach, real quick before we let you go, do you have a plan on how you want to utilize Blake Griffin?
Oh, yes. I think Blake is a very, very talented young man. The way the league is going now, guys, as far as the bigs are concerned, I think he can space the floor. His three-point shooting has gone up. He had a career year shooting the three last year, and that's the way the league is going. I see him bringing the ball down the floor, initiating the offense or triggering the offense from the top and moving the ball from side to side, making decisions, making passes. Also in our other big, Andre Drummond, averaged 3.5 assists last year. So we're blessed with a couple of starting bigs that really do a good job on the perimeter. As crazy as it sounds with Andre Drummond, he's an excellent passer, decision maker from the top. With his size and passing skills, really should open up our offense. Again, from in transition, and it's a lot easier getting it done when you get stops on the other end, on the defensive end. So, but Blake brings a lot to the table. He's seen everything. He's seen all the defense. He can be one of the top leaders on our team. I'm excited about that. So, we're excited about the season. The key with us is staying healthy from top to bottom and making sure, everyone can maximize their talents on the court and not so much time in the training room. And I think that's been the thing that has hurt them more than anything else, because when that group was healthy, they were a pretty effective team, and that's what we plan on going into the season.
Congratulations on the new opportunity, Coach. We appreciate your time. Dwayne Casey, head coach of the Detroit Pistons. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. See you guys down the road.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
And it should be noted, Ryan Holland said the other day on OTL that between this coach, between Casey joining and then between Blake Griffin, that he thinks Detroit will become a destination free agents want to play him. So
we'll have to wait and see on that. Yeah. I don't know if I agree with that one right off the top, but you get a coach who won 59 games, a franchise record, a number 1 seed, and I know they failed in the playoffs, and we know what the nemesis has been. Other coaches vote him the coach of the year, and he was looking for a job. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. And they went to an assistant coach, a guy that had coached under him for a handful of years. Like I said, interesting scenario to me. But lands on his feet, keeps going, and then in Detroit.
Washing my nose, oh yeah. I'm a shower curtain, and I do one thing. Keep water from leaking everywhere. So you see why I feel useless compared to Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could Geico save you money, but they've been around for over 75 years. And they give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or on the Geico app. And they've got a 97% customer satisfaction rating. They do all this while I have to listen to this chucklehead. Oh, good, he stopped.
Washing my toes!
Oh, great, an encore.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
My name is Tony. I'm a lifelong country music fan, and in my personal opinion, I think that Garth Brooks is overrated.
Okay. SportsCenter brought to you by Discover Card. Become a new card member, and Discover Card's going to match all the cash back you've earned, dollar for dollar, at the end of your first year. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations do apply. This all started when Jason Fitz said that Bruce Springsteen is overrated. We've asked you for who else you think is overrated. Caller just said Garth Brooks.
Yeah, I can't go with that one. I can't go with that one. Garth, is specifically responsible for changing the way live shows are done in country music. So I think that, and there's a whole era of country artists today that wouldn't exist without Garth. So he definitely influenced a generation of country.
Jay says Springsteen totally overrated, and you can include the Beatles in that group as well. Now, I have said the Beatles I thought were overrated. I liked their individual work better than their work together. Jay says about the Beatles, they may have changed music, but as musicians and singers, they stunk. Wow. Okay.
Wow. I don't know about, like, I would have to separate Paul McCartney from that. Like, I'm not the biggest Beatle head in the if that's even really a term. I'm not necessarily like a Beatles, like, that's not a big passion for me.
Right.
But I have to respect the heck out of Paul McCartney as a player, as a singer. I do like Terrence's take. This will fire people up. The Beatles were the poor man's Monkees.
Oh, come on.
What? Now you're just trying to troll people. But we should note, Mike, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to brag or anything. Like, I just want to throw this out there. We put a poll up there.
Yes.
A poll that at this point has almost 20,000 votes this morning.
Incredible.
The question is Bruce Springsteen overrated?
Very simple.
For all of you that have spent the morning trying to loudly yell your hate, 54% of these respondents agree with me. Bruce Springsteen is overrated.
And you know what? When I first said the Beatles were, I thought, overrated, which, is to a lot of people blasphemy, I think it opened some people up to say, maybe I'll say it as well now. And I think that's what's happened here, is people may have thought it, but they didn't want to say it. And they're like, well, wait a minute, this guy who was at Juilliard at 10 years old and was on tour, as a fiddle player for the band Perry for a number of years, he's in that business and is saying that, well, maybe now I can let my truth be known if that's what you feel. I don't agree about Bruce Springsteen. I love the guy.
Well, and that comes back to an earlier conversation we had about IQ tests, because I think what we both learned now is that
you guys just don't want to face the fact that I am smarter than both of you.
That is me.
No, it is not.
Smarter both Golics.
How are you smarter than me?
Because America agrees with me.
You just had an opinion, that's all. And they agreed with your opinion.
They agreed with my opinion because my opinion is smarter.
How about this? Scott says the Rolling Stones more overrated than Springsteen.
That's a tough one. I'm not a huge Stones guy, but I appreciate it.
All right, think of the monster from them, the Stones. How about U2? I've got a couple of U2 is overrated, and I'm not a huge fan of U2 either.
So when we were on tour years ago, we were in Ireland, and the Edge was in this bar, sitting there with his security entourage with us, and our two guitar players were just flipping out because the Edge was there.
Right.
And they were like, "Oh my God, what do we do? What do we do?" So I just walked up to him. I'm like, "Hey man, my guitar players are super fans. Can they get a drink?" Like, U2, I respect their stuff. I think they influenced a lot of people. They've made a huge difference in the music world, so I wouldn't call them overrated. I'm just not a big, not necessarily a big fan.
How about Kiss?
No, not a fan of Kiss.
Not a fan of. So you think you're not a fan, or you think they're overrated? I mean,
they're overrated. Like, you want to talk?
There's a difference.
You want to talk awful musicians at the ACM Awards? Oh my God! At the ACM Awards, they picked up one of my guys' guitar players because they were going to play it backstage. Like, I have pictures of like all of our friends hanging out with Kiss, picked it up backstage, and like just the main guys from Kiss, just watching them try and play like basic chords on an acoustic guitar was
really. See, this is what we're going to need to do when you're back again. Is we're going to need to pull the curtain back in the music world a little bit, and the touring world, and what really goes on, and how good musicians really are, and who's singing and who's lip syncing and things like that. I don't want to get you in trouble with any of your former brother and sisterhood out there.
No. But let me just say how many times, I don't know how loudly I can yell at going to the Britney Spears concert in Vegas, which was my mistake. I thought it was going to be a spectacular concert. Like, I thought she was at least going to put on a fun show. Mm-hmm. She didn't really dance all that hard, and she lip synced the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, had me so mad.
Will you really, after we hear you pull back the curtain a little bit, are we going to be really bummed out about the music world?
Nah. No, most of them are fantastic.
Okay.
Most of the guys out there are spectacular. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Not as spectacular as you.
Well, of course.
But spectacular nonetheless.
Good answer.
I try every once. I do want to be invited back. Your name's on the show. Speaking of spectacular, tomorrow, Stu Gotts, Michael Collins going to join us from Shinnecock. It's going to be spectacular. Trey will be back in this seat, which means it will be wonderful also. Thanks for letting me hang out.